Hi there. So here we are again. Here we are, ready to answer some of your questions. And thank you for those that did leave me questions. Um, I'm going to try to answer them as best I'm able to. But what I must say to you is, you know, I want to keep this quite light-hearted because sometimes we can get caught up in the minutiae. Um, and people often see mediums as being these really serious, spooky type people that don't have a sense of humour. And believe you me, most of us have a really good sense of humour, and most of us will tell you that it's very often saved us from hitting the bottom quickly. But I think in life, in all walks of life, we do need to retain that humanness. So I asked for some questions because, as much as it's nice to sit here and talk with people, it's also nice to be able to take these conversations, these little chats that we have, in a direction that is helpful to you. And the only way we can know that is if you let us know. So I've got a few different ones. So thank you to all of you that have asked these questions. Um, and I'm going to deal with them not in any particular order. I'm just going to go where I feel it should be. And some of the questions will follow on from each other, so the answers will be all within that little bit. So now I've waffled on at you a little bit, probably bored you to tears, but that's fine. I don't mind a little bit of quietness while you wait for me to do my stuff, as it were. So, one of the very commonly asked questions is, how do I know I'm psychic? And has everybody got the gift? Well, first of all, I'm not really sure that gift is quite the right word that we would use, but it is a commonly used term. Um, if it was a gift, that would be something you would just open up, take great joy at, dust a bit now and again, look at and think, oh, that's lovely, and so gave me that, and that's it. Um, and is it a gift? Not always, because sometimes we sense things that aren't always as nice as we would like them to be, and everybody would like to be able to tell you really kind, gentle, loving stuff and funny stuff and things like that. But life isn't actually like that. So it can be a struggle, particularly when you're first learning, to understand what's happening, because for most of us, it sort of like creeps up on us, and what we thought was just something that everybody did, we suddenly find out actually isn't. Because I know certainly I thought that everybody was like me when I was younger. I didn't realise that people were different until I started getting into trouble for saying things. And then, of course, I realised that I was not only different, but it wasn't approved of. So, is it a gift? Yes, in a lot of respects it is. Is it right to call it that? I don't know. But anyway, um, I feel, in answer to the full question, I do feel that we all have an empathic nature. We all have that psychic side to us, which is part of our living energy, that living connection that we have with other energy. If I can liken it to, you think you're thinking of somebody and then you bump into them, or you think you need to be ringing somebody up because you just don't know why, but you do need to. And when you ring them up, when you call them, you find that they've got something going on and they really want to talk about it or whatever. So those things are part of your psychic energy. Those things are part of your psychic world. So we all do that. Everybody. There's not a person on this earth. Now you can put it down to intuition. You can put it down to, I just had a feeling because me and her are really good friends, or me and him are really good friends and we have a connection. You can write it off as anything you want, but you are working with psychic energy. And how do you know that you're psychic? I feel that becomes a realization, that you realize that what you're actually doing um, seems to happen quite regularly. that you'll see something on the news and you'll get a feeling about it. Or somebody will tell you something in conversation, they'll chat about something and you'll think, I don't know if I like the feeling of that, or, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. This is all part of the gift, the abilities that we can expand on. That's what we use at the very beginning of our journey. Those are the things that we use. It's like knowing things that normally you wouldn't know. It's about, sometimes it's about having strong aversions to things, like you don't like a particular colour and no matter what you do, you can't wear that colour. And that's because energetically, you don't feel it right. It doesn't feel right to you. It could be having an effect on your moods. You could go into a building and think, oh, this is a really lovely, happy, peaceful place. And you could go into the building next door to it and think, oh, I don't like it in here. That is all part of our psychic energy at work. So those are things that we develop and we fine hone so that we're able to use it in service of spirit. Because all mediums have this psychic ability. Being psychic does not follow that you're going to be able to communicate with spirit as in a communication from somebody that has passed over before you. You might be able to pick up on them from the memories within the aura of the people that you're talking to, and that memory could just be a conversation that they've heard about them. It doesn't mean that they've actually met them. It just means that, you know, the family history has been discussed over the years and things like that. So being psychic in and of itself is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It can help you tap into trends of what are going on. Now, we don't really tell the future. We don't really do it in that way in real terms. What we do is we pick up on the trends that are there and the pathways that are opening up, depending on which choice you choose to make, which direction you choose to take. Because at the end of the day, we've all got free will. And as much as somebody could say to you, well, doing it that way probably won't be as good as doing it that way. But if you're determined that you're taking that one path, then you reap what you sow. And that's the way it is. So I hope that's answered that a little bit, because in and of itself, you know, we could do a whole seminar about all of these things, to be quite honest. Another question, and this is one that comes up a lot when I'm doing workshops. How do I sit in the power? Well, quite simply, you sit, and you sit quietly, and you allow any thoughts that come into your headspace to drift away. You don't preoccupy yourself on those. You occupy yourself in building the energy within your aura, in expanding it out. Now you can do this with having music in the background, you can do this with lighting candles, whatever feels right for you to bring harmony into the room that you're sitting in, because that's what we need. We need a harmonious energy in which to bring the two worlds together. We need to be able to connect the spirit with our energy, because in doing that, what we're doing is we're creating those stronger bonds, those stronger links, so that we're able to be in service of spirit at a much better way, in a much better way. So what you would do is you would sit quietly, you would get your room how you want it. Some people say, oh, I like to do all my meditation like laying down. Well, that's okay, but this is not a meditation. This is building power. A meditation is taking yourself out to have a different experience that brings you peace, that brings you relaxation, brings you healing, and it's an internalized thing. Building power is an external thing. What we are doing is we are expanding our energy and empowering that energy so that it is easier for us to link with the energy of the spirit, of that consciousness of spirit. So what you would do is you would sit quietly, both feet on the floor, and you know, you will hear people say, oh, you can't cross your legs because that blocks the energy. Well, actually it doesn't. But what it might do is it might give you thrombosis, and we really don't want that, do we? So, you know, let's be real here. We don't want anything that's going to make a pain in your leg. So what we do is you sit quietly and restfully. You rest your hands and your arms, and you rest your body. You relax the body, and then you just close your eyes and you bring in that light from spirit. You bring in that light of protection and of love and of joy, and you let that become more aware to your aura. And as you're doing that, you concentrate your thoughts on the auric field, the auric body. So you imagine that beautiful light all around you and beneath your feet and into the ground. And then you think about it being expanded out, growing around you. And as it does, you think about it being infused with light. And it could be that the light is coloured, that it's not just one colour. It could be that it is white, silver, whatever. The colour isn't the issue here. The issue is that we do this. And then I personally think about my energy actually moving out at a nice, even pace. Because it's all about getting things working, not jolting out. It needs to flow. So then you go into this space where your energy builds and it strengthens. Now, if it feels that it's starting to weaken, or it doesn't feel quite as strong, you bring it back with thought to that space where it feels the strongest to you. And then you hold it there with your thought. And in doing that, you then allow the sensations of the spirit, the energy that they bring, you put your attention to that, and you feel that energy building between you. Because do you know what? Working with spirit is not just about giving messages to people. Yes, of course, that's what we do, but it's not just about that. Working with spirit is that cooperation of intelligence, of love, and of peace. And to be of service in the best way possible, we have to create that unity between us. And when you think that the work that we do means we've got to be aware of what spirit are doing, or what spirit are saying to us, in whatever way they're able to. So it's up to us to create the strongest energy we can for them, because believe me, they will work with that, and you will feel the difference. Now, some people say they do that every day, and if you've got time, that's absolutely fine. Some people say they do it before they go to do a specific type of work, like demonstrating in public, churches, whatever. And some people say they do it about once a month, and others will say they do it when they feel it's necessary. But it is a part of your tools, I suppose. That's a good word. I don't know if it is a good word or not, really, to be honest. I'm not sure about that. Tools sounds like hard work, and it's not hard work at all. But it is a part of your skill set. We need to be able to create these clear links, because it's in those clear links that our evidence is provided. But not only that, we feel the presence of spirit stronger. So it could be that by using this practice, that when you're in a private session with somebody, they may well feel that love coming from spirit, which will be a part of their healing in a way that maybe normally they wouldn't. And even though they may not understand that's what it is, there will be this wonderful sense of love and energy and upliftment. And that's what we need. You know, I've had people say to me in the past, I feel like I've just spent 30 minutes in a conversation with them, that they were here in the room. Well, they are in the room, and we can feel them, but when your client feels that they've been in their presence for even if only a few moments, imagine the peace and joy that that can bring, because what it's doing is proving or giving evidence of survival. So sitting in the power is a really, really good thing to do. And I know some people would say, oh, but you sat there and you're not doing anything. Actually, you're doing loads. You're doing loads of stuff. And sometimes it's better that you just do it rather than think about what you're actually doing. Because if you start to think about it, it might look like a really boring task, but it's not. Because the other thing is, if you are in that power, you are receiving healing, you are receiving the love of spirit, the cooperation of spirit, and you're forging more links with your guides. Whether you actually know who they are or not, you are forging links with them. And what better thing could you be doing, really, than that? So sitting in the power, for me, is a very important thing. And it's something that I would advocate for anybody to do. Unless, of course, you're just going to sit there and wander off and think, oh, that was nice, because then you haven't actually done it. So, there we are. So, and a lovely gentleman has asked the question, how do I sit in balance or know that I am in balance? Well, sitting in balance is a bit like sitting in the power. We are creating that balance within us. When you sit to meditate or visualize or anything like that, and you find that the everyday world is impinging on your thoughts, that you're not able to separate from what's going on outside, you know, have I switched the washer off? You know, did I fill the kettle? Did I do this? I've got to go to the shop. I need so-and-so from the stores. I need to make a list about that. If you're doing all of that, then you've not got balance. Because sitting in balance is about just that. It is about creating a balance within yourself. It's not so much about connecting to the spirit, it's about connecting to you. It's about putting yourself in that state of being where you are paying attention and being attentive to your body, your mind, your emotional body and your soul. It is that moment when you bring yourself into alignment. And in doing that, it really wouldn't matter what sort of chaos was going on around you. It would have much less effect on your world. It would mean that you were able to function clearly. It would mean that you would be more focused. So if you're having trouble being focused, then it could be that you need to do some balancing exercises. And it's not always about you've got blocked chakras and things like that. It might not be that at all. It might actually be that the everyday world has really wrung you out like a wet towel. It's about bringing yourself back into that alignment, that centre of gravity that we all have. It could be that you're overworking some of the chakra energy centres because of the way you are as a person, and you would only know that if you were noticing differences within your body, within your thought patterns, etc. You know, or if a healer is working with you, they might be able to see where you're putting too much energy and not bringing in enough. So it's not about them being blocked in a sense in your energy centres. It's about them being utilised in the right way, isn't it? So I feel that it's very important to do these balancing exercises to bring your focus back in to where it needs to be, because as psychics and mediums we have to live in that outside world. It would be lovely to stay in our own little world and never come out, but it doesn't work like that. We still have to function as human beings, and unfortunately, like it or not, we're stuck with that. Can't really get out of it, unless you go and live up a mountain where nobody ever sees you again, which would probably knock your balance out, because every now and again you might actually want to talk to somebody. Maybe not, but you might want to, you never know. So sitting in the balance again is part of doing the work you need to do on yourself, because our development is not just about developing abilities, it's about developing us as a whole. It's about developing who we are. It's allowing our soul to grow, expanding our awareness, expanding our mind, expanding and understanding how we work. And I know you'll have heard me say that before, but it is so important that we know how we work. So sitting in balance is about bringing some quiet sensibility, I suppose, back into your world. When you know you're in balance, then your mind isn't like a butterfly fluttering about all over in there. You're able to sit quietly and peacefully and just allow that energy to circulate in and around, and do breath work. Breathe in that energy. You know, our breathing, our breath work is really, really important, and we should be using it in all parts of our development and in all parts of our work. Have you noticed when you get really het up about things, you breathe more shallow, you don't take deep breaths, which can make us hyperventilate. That means we're a bit out of balance. So it's about finding that centre of calmness. So it's almost like being the eye at the centre of our storm of life in some respects. So I hope that's helped that question. And now I've got some really, really interesting things here to talk about. And Michelle herself, our lovely Michelle from Resonant Essentials, asks these questions. And I'm gonna discuss them in I don't know what word I would use for that. So I won't use a word at the moment. So there you go. You see, I'm out of balance. I couldn't think for a minute there. So you walk your talk, Audrey. Do it yourself. So there are people who are saying they're this dimension, they're that dimension, and they may well be. But they're also saying things like their vibration is so raised that they have become a master and they don't have to do any training. They've been programmed. Well, I don't want to be programmed. I want to start at the bottom and work up. I don't want anybody dropping me in at the top of a thing and saying, there you go, you're ever so clever, get on with it, because that really does not work. There's no grounding involved in that. There is no understanding involved in that. But there is some ego involved in that. You know, I am special. Well, do you know what? We are all special. Every single one of us is special. Even people that we don't really care for are special. Whether they work mediumistically, psychically, or they don't. We are all special. And as such, nobody is any greater or lesser than any other person. But I know, for me, that there is no substitute for good training. There is no substitute for learning with people who have been there and can share their own experiences, which is what I do, and so do most other tutors or tutors of any respect. We know because we've been there. We're not coming in at the top with no knowledge of what we're doing and pretending we're experts. Because, do you know what? There is no such thing as an expert. Certainly not in this field. We're all only where we are. We're still learning. The day we pass through the veil, we'll go on to learn different lessons. But in this life, we never stop learning. You have to have some grounding, some level of training, and some understanding of you. And really, there's no quick fix. There's no shortcut. Not if you're going to do it right, there's not. There really isn't. So my thoughts on that is, when they're told that their vibration is so high, they can do this, that and the next thing, it fits them. It suits them. Because these are people who probably don't want to put any effort into doing anything particularly, but they do like it when you tell them how wonderful they are. And that's the sort of people that will follow that path. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, so let me get that right clear. I'm not saying people are idiots. What I'm saying is training is important. Really, really important. You know, in any job that you go to, you know, if you're going to be a rocket scientist, well, you need to know how to send little rockets up from your back garden, and you need to know how telemetry and things like that work, don't you? You don't expect to go along, build a big rocket in 2 days and send it off into the heavens. You train for the job. You train for the position you're in. And so should we. You know, you don't suddenly be all singing and all dancing and not understand people, because in our work you've got to understand people too. You might not always agree with the people that you're working with, but you have to understand where they're coming from, or at least accept where they're coming from. So this raised vibration thing, we're all raising our vibrations every single day of the week. But that doesn't make us any more special than we were last week. And yeah, it might feel at times that your development has took a big leap, but it won't have done. That development will have been going on quietly, and suddenly it feels like you've had a breakthrough. And in actual fact, that breakthrough might have been coming for months. Because sometimes when you think that you're stagnating and you're not doing anything, you're actually doing quite a lot. You're just not really being aware of the subtleties of how our energy at times will work. So that's my answer to that one. So, and a really good question here, another one from Michelle actually. What is the difference that I have seen in my work from when I first started to now? Well, you know, I hate to have to admit it, but 30 odd years is quite a long time, isn't it, really? But, you know, the clock moves on, the wrinkles arrive, and some might think a little bit more sensibility might have come into play, and maybe at points it has done. I say maybe, jury might still be out on that, but I have seen a lot of changes in my work, and for me personally there's been a lot of change. Now I have always been a clairsentient medium. My sensitivities, my awareness, my empathic energy has always been out there that I've worked with first. But what I have noticed is, over the years, the way that I experience that and the way that I have learned to use it has changed. Now, back when I first started, obviously there was no Zoom meetings and internet meetings. There was none of that. We didn't reach the global world in that sense. You had to physically be present somewhere to meet somebody, to be invited somewhere to go and work and things like that. And you know, it was good. There were some amazing teachers back in those days, and there are now. And what the ones that are working now have done is that they've worked on what they learned from those old masters, as we could call them, and they have made it their own. And that's the difference. There's no clones anymore. We've made it our form of work, but using, or hopefully using, the foundations that were taught to us all those years ago. I was blessed to meet some amazing teachers on my journey, and I was also blessed to meet some amazing people who were on their same journey as me. And Shirley, that you saw working the other week, Shirley and I started our development path at around the same time, and Shirley was the first person I ever sat in a circle with. And here we are, 30 odd years later, after living in lots of different places where we've come back together, and we're still working, and it's still the same. We did a demonstration the other night of psychic art and mediumship, and it was like we'd never stopped doing it. But it must be 20 years since we actually did do the last one. But it felt just the same. So some parts of my work haven't changed. Some parts of the work haven't changed. But of course we have to bring things into a more modern world. A world that, because the world has changed, and I'm not just talking about last year or whatever, but over a period of time the world has changed. And we all have to move with the times, even though at times you're rolling your eyes, and I roll my eyes an awful lot. I have to admit it. I do. I'm a real eye roller. I can't help myself. It's like, oh God. So I couldn't tell you a fib if my life depended on it, because my face would give me away in seconds. So there we are. But I don't think that's a bad thing, really, because at least people understand where I'm coming from with that, don't they? So, yeah, I've seen a lot of things change. One of the things that I have seen change that I didn't always like was in the UK, the way some of our spiritualist churches started to work, the way they sprung up, and suddenly you've got people that's got a badge on that says, I am president. I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. And some churches that I went in, you almost felt like they were doing you a favour letting you work, and I didn't like that either, because that to me is detrimental to the energy I need to work with. And it's also the complete opposite as to why I chose to work in churches in the first place. So I withdrew from most churches, and now obviously I couldn't, even if I wanted to. But, life moves on, and there are a lot of people, amazing mediums that serve the churches, and there are some amazing people that go into churches and feel great love and presence in them and friendship and things like that. So I'm not saying churches are the wrong thing. What I'm saying is I watched changes in them at the time that I didn't like and I didn't feel comfortable with. So I withdrew, but I enjoyed my time working in that environment. So yeah, some things have remained exactly the same, and that is the foundations, the way we work, the way we repeat our exercises, the way we continue to grow. And that's the point, is we've got to grow as people, and as we grow, so does our understanding and our empathy and everything else. So yeah, changes for the most part are good. But I don't mean to say that we don't hanker after the old days, because, do you know what? Don't we all? Haven't we all got a period in our life when you think, oh, I wish I could go back to that. That was a great time in my life, etc., etc. And that is normal human nature. It's got nothing to do with anything but that. So that's my answer to that one. So, and then we have the question of ego. Now, ego could be a subject that we could do a whole day's work on, really, because everybody's got one, and we do need it. We need our ego to live in the normal world. Our ego is part of our self-preservation. It warns us of danger. It tries to put us where it thinks we should be, because it's there to serve us. It's not there to serve anybody else. It's there to serve us. But let's break ego down a little bit. So how can it manifest? Well, it can manifest in believing you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, really, I am magnificent. That can be ego. And we all need to feel that we're good at what we do. We all need to have pride in what we're doing and take pride in what we're doing. But pride and ego aren't too far away from each other. So we have to try and balance that. But we look at the jealousy aspect. You know, people jealous because somebody else appears to be doing better than they are, appears to work better than they do, or appears to get more work than they do, or get invited to this or invited to that. Well, do you know what? If these people weren't spending so much time frowning at what everybody else is doing, and they actually got on with it, there would be no reason why they couldn't be doing exactly the same. But people like that would rather look down on other people and be jealous and things of that nature. Now, you're going to find it no matter what walk of life you're in, it's going to be there. But in our work, in the work of the Spirit, it really can be quite a difficult thing to handle. Most of us experience it. Most of us have somebody at some point in our lives that will make us feel upset or angry by their behaviour towards us. That, you know, things like plagiarism, that's an ego thing. And it's okay, and I've said this before, it's okay to use somebody else's work as long as you're saying that's whose it is. So it's alright to use a quote from somebody, but please say, you know, I remember listening to so-and-so speak and they said this and it really resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with you. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You're giving credit where it's due. But to try and pretend that it's all yours, that's an ego thing. And that is the need to shine brighter than everybody else. That's a need for you to, that's a need to say, look at me, I am amazing and I know everything. Well, do you know what? Look at me, I am amazing and I'm still learning. That's the difference. Humility is what we require in our work. And I don't care what sort of work it is you're doing. A quiet humility. And I don't mean by that saying, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean just quietly getting on with the work. If you're needing big pats on your back, then that's your ego. But equally so, the opposite of that can be when you tell somebody how amazing that event was, that session was, whatever, and they try to brush off what you're saying to them. They try to brush off the compliments. Now, there are a lot of us that are a bit uncomfortable with getting compliments, and it's got nothing to do with being at work. It's about anything. They say, you know, you say things like, oh, your hair looks lovely, where did you have that done? Oh, I just did it myself this morning. And they brush it off because they're uncomfortable with you pointing out to them something good. Now, that's about how they feel about that. And we know that. We don't have to go into psychology to know about that, do we? But there is this need for balance within that. And our work is about balance. So, now, the other thing I want to say is, where the ego is concerned, that's the part of us that makes us look at other people, as I've already said, but I want to reiterate here. That's the part of us that makes us look at other people and think, why can't I do it like that? Now, I always used to say, I'm clairsentient, I can't see anything and I can't hear anything, I'm working purely on the sensations that spirit bring me. And that is true, I am. But I can describe what something looks like. So on some level, somewhere in there, I am seeing and having that experience of vision without having vision, as it were. And I used to think, oh, I wish I could see it, and things like that. Well, do you know what? The first time I did, it nearly jumped out my skin. So be careful what you ask for. But I wasn't jealous of them. I used to think, right, I'll have a go and see if I'm going to try that, I'm going to try that. Because I think anybody that's working and working well is flipping amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, what I need to say is this. And this, to me, puts it into a nutshell. Is the songbird jealous of the hummingbird because of its beautiful colours? Or does it continue to sing its song while enjoying the beauty of the hummingbird's colours. Because really, that's what we should be doing. We should be enjoying the beauty and magnificence in other people while continuing to do that which makes us beautiful too. Because the songbird can sing a most beautiful song, would it stop singing because the hummingbird's got beautiful plumage and it hasn't? No, I don't think it would. It would naturally keep singing its own beautiful song. So really, that's what we should be doing. We should be applauding and supporting those around us who are working well and in the right way and getting up and having a go and pushing themselves. We shouldn't be trying to pull them down because we can't do it like they do. Because what you do is you do it like you do. You're not a clone. We are not all coming out of some factory. We're not factory mediums. We're not factory psychics. We are unique individuals who are learning to use our energies, our intuition and our abilities in a unique way. And that's what we should be working on. So don't get drawn into these ego things. Don't get drawn into any of this bun fight that goes on out there. Walk your own true path and you will find that it will open up just as it should. So I hope that that's made a little bit of sense to you. I hope that I have given you some insight into what we're doing. I think it would be interesting to take some of these subjects and make them into seminars. So I'll be thinking into that and I will let you know what I'm planning to do where that's concerned. But thank you all for listening to me. Thank you all for bringing me your thoughts and your questions. And may you have a blessed week. Bye bye now.